Welcome back to MFO, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another episode. We're out here on the lake. I'm here with my buddy Ken Winston, and I'm gonna quiz you a little bit. I'm gonna talk about a topic because we're getting it right now. We're fishing for smallmouth. We're gonna talk about that a little bit later on, but we're getting to a place where there's gonna be a time where guys are gonna be saying, the fish aren't biting. That post-spawn funk is coming. I want to ask you your opinions on the post-spawn funk and kind of see what you think, and then I'm going to share with you some of my opinions, and we'll kind of do that. I got my resident expert in the boat here, so I'm gonna pick his brain a little bit. We will be back right after this, guys. Welcome back to Mark Fisher Outdoors, everybody. I'm Mark Fisher.
I'm Ken Winston.
And so we're going to talk about that post-spawn funk. It's not happening now. Boy, the smallies are on bed big time here.
Time.
And in fact, I'm going to tell you right now, we have an Underwater Wednesday episode coming up next Wednesday that is by far, I think, one of the best underwater, on the water Wednesday episodes we've ever done. We are going to be catching bedded smallmouth, and I'm telling you, we got footage underwater,
Absolutely.
through a flogger, over on from the boat. We've got, I mean, every type of footage using the drone. We've got it all. You are going to want to watch next Wednesday on Underwater on the Water Wednesday for sure. So that's my promotion for that. But let's get to today's topic, which is, what do you think, Ken? Do you think there is such a thing as a post-spawn funk?
There certainly is.
You think there is?
Absolutely. There is. You know, and you know, I guess you can always view it differently, whether it's a funk or not. Yes, it's harder to catch the fish. You know, that especially the males and the females, they're exhausted.
Yeah.
You know, from doing their thing, and they move out and they rest a little bit. But can they be caught? Absolutely, they can be caught. You have to change your strategy a little bit, though.
So let's talk about that real quick. I'm gonna go back and debate with you about whether there's truly a funk or not. But let's talk about, since you brought it up, change your strategy. So what are some of the strategies that you use during that time period when the fishing gets tough and the fish are in that post-spawn period?
You know what? It's not much different from a cold front, in my mind.
That's a
So-
good
Yep.
piece of advice.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
It's not-
elaborate
it's-
on that a
It's
little
not
bit.
much different. So in my view, first off, they're exhausted. They've done their thing. They pull out to a little bit deeper water, typically, you know, the first break. And, you know, they'll very often relate to some sort of cover or structure.
Just like on a cold
Just
front.
like on a cold front. And they'll be tight to that cover or that structure. And what do? You slow down and you downsize.
Yep.
And that is what I do.
And look for reaction strikes.
And look for reaction.
You know,
buttons.
so
Absolutely.
to be honest, running a spinnerbait along a dock post or a chatterbait or something like that, that is a post-spawn kind of a thing to do.
Absolutely.
You don't need to necessarily, I don't disagree with you on downsizing, but look, you know, they're not going to be chasing as opposed to reacting.
Absolutely.
And your point about look for the places where during a cold front they're going to be up next to tight to objects.
Absolutely.
Dock post, rock, whatever.
Whatever.
And like you said on that first break, that's the same kind of place they're going to be if they're resting after the
Yes,
spawn.
absolutely.
And they're not going to be looking at exerting a lot of energy.
No,
but
they're
boy, they are going to take a meal if it gets presented to them on a
Absolutely.
silver platter in front of them.
And if that meal is a big enough meal and it's an easy meal, a jig, for example.
A jig, yeah.
Football jig, that's one of my favorite things. Now,
For sure.
on a lake like Geneva, where we do have great weed edges and such, and we have great breaks, and one of the things I like to do is rip a jig right out of the weed edges.
And so again, you're doing that reaction.
I'm doing the reaction,
Yep.
but at the same time, I can control it in such a way that I can really slow it down for the most part.
Yep.
So, for me, that's the answer. Yes, technically, is there a funk? It depends on how you want to look at it.
I'm going to give you my point of view on this.
Okay.
Pre-spawn, fish are all doing the same thing. They're going from deep to shallow.
Right.
A lot of them are.
Right.
Now, granted, they do them in stages. Not
Correct.
every fish spawns at the same time. But they're either in deep water for the winter,
Yep.
or they're moving shallow.
Right.
So we as fishermen go, okay, we can pattern these fish during the spawn. They're not all spawning at the same time, but we're up on the bank catching those fish that are up on the bank.
Right.
Now all of a sudden you get to that post-spawn time where maybe there's a few late spawners that haven't come in, but a majority of them have spawned. They're not real aggressive yet. They haven't moved into their summer places,
Right.
wherever that is, deep
Yep.
water, shallow water, whatever. And they're more spread out. And
Correct.
so what I view as the post-spawn funk is less about the fact that they're not eating. They aren't. Individual fish are not eating because they're tired. But the reality is they're less condensed. They're doing a lot of different things. You got some fish that haven't spawned, some fish that are still spawning, some fish that are tired from spawning, some fish that have moved out deep, some fish that are staying shallow.
Yep.
You've got fish all over the place in all
Absolutely.
different things. And so there's less of a concentration of fish that are doing the same thing. So we as stupid fishermen look at it and go, they're not biting.
Right.
Well, the reality is there's not as many of them doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes us think that there's this post-spawn funk. But I do agree with you from the standpoint of, so if you're going to catch, if there's fewer fish doing the same thing, now number one, you want to target specific targets. You want to fish
Correct.
specific targets because that's where they're more likely to be. But that's where they're more likely to be because of the funk, okay?
Yep.
But they're also more likely to be there anyway. If I got a big expanse of water, I would rather fish that dock post than just a bunch of
Absolutely.
wide open water because they're
Absolutely.
more likely to be there. And so that's I agree with you, jigs, structure.
Worms, shaky head, anything that's going to be that you can control the speed and preferably
And put it in that zone.
Put it right on their nose.
Right, 100%.
And
But I don't know what you think about what I said, but
I agree. I think that's a good analogy. They are spread out. There are times that you are going to get these pockets where they're all bunched up and everything, but everybody's at so many different stages. Right now, where we're at, there's a lot of the females are long gone.
Yeah.
You got some of the bucks sitting out here, and they're not eating. They're exhausted, but
I had a buddy who's fishing a tournament this weekend, and he's like we're gonna get beat because there are guys who go out on the lake and they're finding those last bedders, and they're gonna go and pick off those final fish that are still on bed. They spend all week going and finding 5 fish that are still on bed, and they're gonna beat us because we're fishing around and we can't catch anything. The best we can catch are the fish that are fry gardens.
yes,
And my answer to him was, dude, yeah, you could target fry garders. That's one way, but that those males that are fry guarding are not going to win a tournament.
No, not at
not
all.
going to win a tournament. But the other thing you could do is just kind of get a mindset that says, hey, we're either going to do the same thing and we're going to look for those bedders that are still there and fish that minority of fish that we know are there, or you can fish another minority of fish that have already spawned, already gone through the post-spawn, and that are in their summer places for the first time. The
Absolutely.
deeper weed lines. That if you're out on like a Kentucky lake, there's fish that are on the ledges already. There
Absolutely.
aren't a ton of them yet,
but they're there.
but they're there. And I would rather fish for a minority of fish that I know are there
yes,
than just kind of going up and down the bank fishing for males that are barely keeper length.
Right.
And so from a strategy standpoint, I 100% agree is either look for the percentage of fish that are where they are,
right.
or at least target specific structures where you think that those post spawners would be hanging out.
Absolutely. And then, on things like when it comes to structure, like weed lines. one of the best things also that just thought of this just now. One of my favorite things to do is a Carolina rig.
Yeah.
So you can get that Carolina rig. The bait looks very natural. You
And
can
it's
slow
a
it
slow
down,
presentation.
And it's a slow presentation. Great way, and it depends on the structure. Yes, if a dock post is one thing, but if it's a long weed line, or a long break, Carolina rig is awesome for that.
Or a shell bed or,
Or a shell bed or
anything like that. Right,
Right.
right.
Humps are also another place that I like to go to. At that point in time, humps
Absolutely.
work extremely well. But yes, it is tougher. No question about it.
It's tougher, but what's your other option? Oh, I'm not going to fish.
Yeah.
I would not choose that one.
No,
So.
no.
Guys, we appreciate you tuning in to Mark Fisher Outdoors. Love to hear your comments and how you battle this post-spawn funk. Do you even think that it exists, or do you just not even? It's time to go fishing. We're going fishing. Love to hear your comments. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and by all means, do not miss next Wednesday's Underwater on the Water episode. It is a good one for sure. Do you remember? What was the name of the TV show? Midwest Outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
Lawlinen, Gary Law. I don't know. I can't remember his name, but he used to say, "It's a keeper."
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to say that because that's his trademark. But guys, we appreciate you tuning in, and we will see you again on Monday for another episode of Mark Fisher Outdoors. Take care, everybody.
All right. Thanks for joining us, guys.